Double button,
or even like, okay, so it's very different when you're on the phone in desktop mode and when you're on the phone in mobile mode.
I mean, that's just sort of true for life in general.
I know, but some of the options are that you need to know are in desktop mode, because by default it defaults to 360p, which, you know, who wants to look at our kind of, you know,
I mean,
in 360p?
to be fair,
come on.
Maybe they do want to watch us in 360. Maybe they don't need this.
Maybe, and they could just listen to the audio podcast.
Yeah, for
It'll be that kind of show.
You know, we want to make sure we're catering to all tastes.
That kind of show, huh?
While we get this started up, I'm gonna tweet.
Yes, so, I normally would be tweeting, but we are on the phone that I normally. Anyways, you guys get what's going on.
Yeah, you're picking up what we're putting down.
heavily.
I'm gonna quote the tweet from last night.
That's a good option.
Now, I'll be curious to see, especially listening back to the audio we capture, if the dance aerobics class behind us
surprisingly went quiet, but yes.
So, you know, because it's right at 9. I figured, you know, like, hey, they've been going for like an hour. That's like a good dance aerobics
Juan got in a little bit early to get us a good spot.
Yeah, I tried to find one of the gazebos in one of the pavilions we were last time. Exactly. Actually, but I think this is going to look better for how we're in the shade.
The natural shading that we're in. Now, obviously, everything behind us is still blown out, but that's just because of the way it is. At least we look better. And actually, this is a little bit reminiscent of the not that one, but the one before when we did the phone challenge. We were further down in the park, and we were sitting at a table, and we kind of did it similarly, where the camera was a little bit further away. I think it was the Xperia 5 Mark II.
Man, that was close too, because like we finished up just like a pre-record.
Yeah.
And like we got to like 15 minutes, and then just as we were shutting the camera off, you went to hit it, and then the camera shut off.
Yeah. The phone's just like, no,
it's that thermal throttling.
Yeah, thermal throttling for the win, and okay, they're going for the second win. Good job.
Wow, they're still going. This is, I mean, no,
we came in on the wrong thing. We shouldn't have done a live stream. We should have done a dance off.
Yeah, I want to try and figure out like how to do not a dance off. I want to try and figure out like one of the Patreon nights, if we can do a karaoke night somehow.
Has to be a Twitch or
because I think if you do like a Discord, like
you could try
screen capture, we could all kind of be. But the problem is like syncing up the audio, who's singing with what.
Well, not only that, and then whatever factor delay. If they're on Bluetooth, not hardwired, so they're gonna have a delay on top of a delay, and then everybody's gonna be like, yeah. I mean, it'll end up becoming just a massive. It'll be a masterpiece for sure, but I'm not sure what kind of masterpiece. If you guys wanted. Welcome back. Hope you guys are doing well. I see our voice. So actually from here, I can see Aditya in there. And then, of course, I want to say Gary.
I'll have the live chat up in just a second.
We'll have the live chat. I do apologize for that.
Trying to get this tweet
We're kind of like warming up a little bit. It is September 10th.
9:07 in the AM.
9:07 in the AM.
And we're wrapping up a challenge. That's why we're doing another face-to-face here.
I mean, it's also kind of nice to, honestly, to get out of the house and to hang out with Juan a little bit more.
I mean, it's going to be stupid hot again today, but just right now in the morning.
That's why we came on a little bit earlier.
Kind of nice.
Last time we learned our lesson. Also, this time, no cover. So as soon as it gets hot, we're going to start seeing sweaty. Anyways,
I tried to pick a spot that we can at least hopefully keep the phone in the shade. That's the big problem.
Last thing we want is
because like we were saying, like when we did the one over there, it was like a picnic bench. It was a gorgeous spot, but like we got about 15 minutes of camera time.
I forgot at the time. I think when we were setting it up that I needed to work out some kind of shade for the phone because of it's just a Sony thing. You know, if you have a Sony, you have a certain limit before temperatures become a concern. And I know it. You know, recently.
I mean, the only phones that ever overheat are Sony's and Pixel 5As. So
absolutely. Which, by the way, I installed Android 12 on yesterday. I was actually pretty surprised. It was nice.
You took the. So according to one person on Twitter that I saw, the Android 12 beta completely and totally fixes all of the thermal throttling camera issues in 4K.
I have not done my deep dive thermal testing.
So I would expect you do your due diligence of filling the storage on a phone. To verify,
should have brought that phone with us today and done the video.
You can shoot video on a $400 cell phone that most production people would never try on cinema grade cameras.
Absolutely, I think that's the. I did not see that tweet, but thank you for letting me know. Actually, I thought about it because I've been using it on the 4A for a while, and Google decided to push out Android 12 Beta 5 a couple days ago.
Yeah, I just updated my 3A,
and I'm surprised. So Google has shifted from their roadmap that they gave us early in the year. We were supposed to get 3 betas and then jump in, and I'm realizing there's a lot more small incremental fixes.
Yeah.
We finally have new widgets that they showed us at the beginning, the clock widgets that we saw before, which was actually part of the original leaks that we saw. There was a picture of Jennifer Aniston with some nice, funky kind of characteristic things.
Right.
Android 12 is looking to be a very... It's going to change the conversation of stock Android dramatically. I think what we've used to in the past, to a certain point, saying that stock essence, meaning simplistic, everything is minimalistic, everything runs perfect. I'm not saying it's going to impact that, but I'm talking about the aesthetics of Material U is changing it, and having it on the 5A, honestly, like shifting from 11 to 12, and obviously this is shifting from 11 to 12 beta 5, not 12 alpha, beta, whatever, all of that. It was actually nice.
You know, I feel like I'm going to be the contrarian and disagree subtly in the most pedantic and obnoxious way possible.
He's using big words again. Okay, yes.
So to be pedantic, no, actually, I feel like...
No, please be aloof.
I will be... let me do a little mansplaining for how technology works here, TK.
Ah, crap.
With
that, I walk off.
Right? No. Throws coffee in my face, storms off. Click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. No, the thing that really catches me about the Pixel betas of Android 12, it's how much Google seems to finally be reading the room and making their own flavor, like their own skin of Android.
Yes.
And so I feel like the real test of stock is actually going to come on a phone like a Sony. Because Sony puts so little into customizing the UI.
They're very much, and that I think Sony does that very, very nicely. And I want to say Motorola has also been known to do that a little bit. They don't really heavily skin. They don't bother.
They add a couple value added UI elements.
Fix it, right?
So I feel like that's really going to be the test of stock Android. And what we see now is a Google that's trying to... It's not that they're trying to play the Samsung skin game, but I think they're trying to highlight what makes a Pixel unique. And so they are themselves taking a step
absolutely.
away
They're
from
building the
stock
Pixel
Android.
experience. But I was more so talking as, I mean, we've heard it many times. We've seen it in many videos, people talking about, stock Android, what stock Android's going to be.
And now I think we need to start saying this is Pixel Android.
This is Pixel Android.
Just like we would say about One UI,
AOSP
Oxygen
is truly
OS.
stock Android, but nobody talks about AOSP because nobody installs AOS. Well, a few number of people install AOSP.
And again, I think like I'm going to be...
Lineage is going to be really nice.
I'm going to be critically curious to see how the ROMs handle it. And then the main player I'm going to be interested in is what does Sony do with Android 12? Because they have never tried to make their phones look bubbly or friendly.
Absolutely.
Rounded edges, they're soft around the corners,
or big. It's a definite shift in approach.
I love like on the Xperia One where you pull up your settings and they're all there.
Yeah,
it fits in the entire list of settings.
The phone is long enough that you get
on your screen in one shot.
Exactly. I will have to comment, by the way, the ladies over on the other side with the dancing, they're playing a very, very dear music song to me of Amru Diab, Tamalli Ma'ak. Now that is hitting me on a different level.
I was a little concerned when you got here. They were doing like a mashup of some Bollywood and the Knight Rider theme. And I mean, like on their behalf.
We're not monetized. Who cares?
Yeah. Take that, Google.
No, I was like, why am I worried? This is sorry. Yeah.
So, but I was worried that when you showed up here, I feel like some of the dance moves that they were performing were not authentic Bollywood. And I know how sensitive you get to that kind of choreography. So I was hoping.
We wanted to review it, and honestly, it was just an NDA situation and getting some signatures on paper, which would take
all forever. The releases would take forever.
Yeah, because they're all
there's like 15 of them over there.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those conversations. But honestly, though, that song hits in a very, very special place for me. It's one of the songs that we played at my wedding. So it is a very near and dear song to myself.
Great.
It is also, of course, in Arabic. But anyways, going back to that was my biggest surprise, actually, that there was another update to the other updates.
And I mean, like, again, in that whole grand scheme of betas to release candidates when we know the real consumer release is right around the corner.
It's absolutely right around the corner.
This beta, though, feels like now this is what Android 12 was supposed to be. So
it encompasses everything. We finally got the Easter egg, the true form of the Easter egg. Greg in the chat wanted to let me know when I was posting it on Instagram. He said, TK, well, we had that one on Android 4.2 or beta 4.2. we had the image of the Easter egg in 4.2 where it was 12 with all the bubbles, but the clock to get Android 12 to show up, that whole Easter egg method, didn't show up till this one. And then there was also a nice little surprise at the home screen with the color palette.
Yeah, that's cute.
That was actually a nice little, a little bit more involved than just a little cat like we had last time with the cat was cute. But.
So I'm gonna be curious to see if there's much chatter on that. I've been saying in a bunch of podcasts recently, my sister and her husband, my brother, they're all on Pixel 3As. My brother smashed a Pixel 3A, went to a Moto, didn't like it, went to, I think, some old like Honor phone that I'd given him a while back, like one of the 5Xs or something.
Oh, wow.
That didn't last long. Went back to a Pixel 3A. And my dad's on a Pixel 4A. So
I'm just need to get your mom, man.
She's still a contrarian on that OnePlus.
That OnePlus 6, man. 6 Pro, right? No, wait, 16.
Yeah.
Yep, 16.
So she called me out because I mentioned that on one of my last podcasts, and she was like, "Are you making fun of me?" And like, no, they know that. So like, my audience knows you kept a Galaxy S5 for like 5 years.
I love it. So, she's reading between the lines and coming up with her own narrative to the cover.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, I don't know. Maybe no. Obviously, it is admirable that the 60s lasted this long, and I think it's a great device, if any.
But I'll be curious to see, because I come from a family of engineers and computer programmers, and how they're going to react when the UI changes significantly from the Pixel, especially on the Pixel 3As.
The Pixel 3As are going to be interesting. 4A handled it very nicely. I think the 3A can handle it like a champ. There's no question. The 5A, obviously, there's absolutely no reason for it. Yeah, 765 is perfectly fine with it. It was more about, I've been rocking the 5A because I'm trying to do a little bit more, after the heating issues. No, after the buzz type of a conversation. And then, you know what? I saw it, and apparently it was finally added. It was finally added to the list of the beta, so you can actually add it in there. But speaking of pixels, since we're kind of jumping in Android 12 conversations.
Yeah, I feel like no one is ever allowed to promote or advertise their phones unless they're Samsung or Apple.
Okay, so with that being said, let's talk Samsung, Apple, and everything.
Welcome to the Sam Apple podcast.
Welcome to the Sam Apple podcast.
No,
we'll start over.
How frustrating is it that like Google drops a teaser of the Pixel 6
that nobody,
and like I saw it from Mark's Twitter feed, and like, okay, that's cool. Like Google is actually trying to talk about their phones, and like the immediate reply is, "This didn't tell me anything new that I didn't already know about the phone." Why is Google wasting my
real
time?
life being held? What show were you watching?
Like, immediately, it's this like entitled nerd angst over a phone that we've seen in leaks, and we've seen
absolutely. Google confirmed the design weeks ago. This is not a secret.
Where's that kind of nerd ire when Samsung puts out an ad campaign like "Do what you can,"
or when their entire ad video gets leaked from their German site over a week before the launch?
No, but again, it's like Apple can put out something just purely aspirational, and it doesn't inform the user on what the specs of the phone are going to be.
They're super hyped about the event in about a couple of days or so.
But it's just like, genuinely in the tech space, we're thirsty for some competition. I'm worried a lot of techies are building up their Pixel 6 enthusiasm just so that they can slam it when it really arrives. But when you see that, like Google is saying they're actually going to try and advertise this thing. They put out a pretty decent teaser, I thought. Like the whole point of that is a consumer teaser.
In real life kind of usage scenarios. But I think for me, the biggest thing is we got to see it in hand.
Yeah.
The biggest things that we've seen in the past were pictures of it sitting on the table, being put against other things, renders and so on. It actually looks nice. I actually did a screen grab out of the video just because I actually copied what Mark did. So Mark posted it on his Instagram stories. He took 3 screen grabs on top of each other, and I was like, okay, that's actually cool. So I tried doing it. Short answer is that's what I ended up posting, but it doesn't look like it's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. The design doesn't actually stand out too much. And it fits. I mean, if you see them a couple of times, like picking it up. There's some emphasis also on color reproductions, darker tone skins, which is what we talked about with Google from before. I feel that's still being a driver or a conversation going on there, which I feel like it's something that we haven't really seen from a lot of other people talking. So, am I excited? Heck yeah. Can I wait? No, I want it yesterday. So, Pixel is it's a very interesting story. They've gone from developer niche, very super niche type of an exclusive experience to developers for very different approach to jumping into Pixel with getting backlash with people like it's too expensive to.
I'm feeling like I kind of feel like Pixel 4 is really.
I want to say Pixel 3 X, the Pixel 3 XL. But around the 3 and the 3 XLs when the camera emphasis started shifting. It didn't hit till 4, but 3 is where I felt like it kind of started a little bit for me.
So beyond camera stuff, I kind of feel like Pixel 4 is probably the first real Google made it phone.
I have to give it a second right there.
I mean, I'm sure you guys can still probably hear me okay, but I can't hear myself. So nothing offensive about that at all.
If I said something wrong, please do not correct me. I meant it entirely as a pure joke. I was trying to say the plane was passing, and he keeps talking.
He meant it in all harm.
All harm.
No. Sorry, from what little sign language I had to learn in the Boy Scouts.
For everybody
like,
on the
no.
For everybody that's on the audio podcast, ignore this part.
Yeah, so I'll cut it.
We're gonna skip.
I'm not gonna cut it. Everything stays in the podcast.
Well, I was gonna add some audio to it.
So we went from Nexus devices where I feel
Nexus-esque. I feel like that.
No. We went from Nexus devices where I feel Google trying to play the we love all of our manufacturers equally.
Samsung,
this is for
HTC,
developers. Huawei. It's not for consumers. They could kind of separate themselves from the conversation that we're relying on someone else's hardware to showcase what we do with software. And I think it's around the Pixel 4 where we see the first like full iteration of we really do own the hardware and the software all together, where the Pixel 3, I feel like there were still some of those compromised conversations. You know, there were camera issues and some bugs and some gremlins with the Pixel 3. And there was still this feeling from Google that it was, well, you know, we're a software company and we'll patch this and we'll do that. And with the Pixel 4, it felt like the most fully realized Google
they doubled down on the system and absolutely. And it was also the time when they decided fingerprint sensors were not needed anymore. It was a big, I think the 4A XL. So for me, the 4XL is still one of my favorite devices to date. Nothing to take away from any of the other devices. The 5 is a solid device. 4A, 5A, all of the other devices offer their own story. But the 4XL for me was a device that I fell in love with. From the moment I got it, I took it out, I put my SIM card in it, and for 6 months straight, I could not remove my card from it. Not because I couldn't physically, but it was just, every time I wanted to. It was hard.
You kind of pull you back. Outside of an LG, the Pixel 4 XL probably held my SIM
except
card
for the audio experience for me, which I felt like was again.
Oh yeah.
There's no comparison. When we talk LG, when you talk Sony, it's a different game. But
the 4 XL also represents that like year window where the team that they pulled from HTC felt more integrated into the Google ecosystem. The conversation
definitely had.
And so when we kind of tack all of this timeline together, which is ridiculous because Google is they're a $1 trillion corporation. It's not, a company is not one thing. Like Google doesn't exist as just this one mind that executes all policy at the same. All these little pockets of organizations.
I'm not going to say fractions. Sorry, I meant subdivisions of, you know, you have mobile, you have online, you have home.
I mean, they're factions.
Yeah,
like they go to battle every day.
Exactly.
So
whoever wins gets to design the Pixel. So Pixel 6 was a design between vendor and with department.
Yeah, really? Yeah. So, man, this one's coming in low.
Yes.
It's like North by Northwest over here.
There is a little.
Yeah, we're right on the flight path of a tiny little
Van Nuys Airport. So if you're in Southern California, Los Angeles, and San Francisco,
you want to fly on in. You could kind of probably meet up with us by the time we're done recording this.
So we've had an airplane, we've had a small plane. Now we just need a helicopter.
I was going to say we definitely need like one of those little fat helicopters from the 1960s.
Brought to you by Aviation Week.
Getting back to my point, I was losing the thread of it anyway. The thing that I think is interesting is for all of this Google conversation and the way that techies talk about Google, like they should just make a thing and make it work and it should just be good. I feel like Pixel 6 is really only the second generation true Google flagship phone. Where they're not relying on someone else's hardware. They're not like using the build or the designs from like 2 years before. I mean, because again, making a phone takes like 2 years.
I think roughly about 18 months to
kind of go
from idea
to manufacturing
actual product in your hand. Like what we're talking right now about, let's say the 888, they're already talking about 2 generations down.
So we've got a Pixel 4 XL where the year before they had acquired a whole bunch of HTC talent, which means that the Pixel 4 was the first phone with about a year out. They weren't relying on the hardware designs from HTC and LG before that. Which means Pixel 6 is literally only the second true.
And they have,
Google
like I said,
they
truly have control over almost every aspect of it, from the SoC to the just the design, the software. Of course, we already kind of saw it. We had kind of a heavily early peak to that with Android 12. I feel like overall the biggest things that we're going to be really looking forward to is how is it implemented, how is the hardware, the battery life, the experience. It's mostly going to really go around the SoC experience. I think a lot of us are looking into, does Whitechapel, does Tensor end up becoming the flagship that we all want because Google had a major hand in it as far as putting it together and developing Android 12?
No, I mean, the most important question though is how does it feel in the hand?
I was wondering about that, and so far from the picture I saw, a little bit iffy.
I mean, I think it looks like a 7 out of 10.
I saw some sharp edges.
It has corners.
Yes,
I mean, that's like so
corners.
2009.
It has glass. I heard there's glass.
You know what happens when you crack glass is that it slices open skin.
I'm very much concerned. So I'm going to be voicing my opinion in most of my videos. First, starting off by saying the glass is there.
And I wonder, like, will it run Geekbench? Because that's the only thing that you do on a phone.
And Antutu, make sure you get I think for most part, Geekbench pretty much sets the standard for me. If Geekbench doesn't come up, and I've had few phones, which is surprising because you mentioned.
Especially when they're under embargo.
Yeah,
and you're really locking down
Geekbench. Geekbench and Geekbench will just not install. Or
you know what's kind of nice though is when you frame most of your performance conversations on real world apps and not a synthetic benchmark, then it doesn't matter if the synthetic benchmark doesn't run on your pre-release embargo device.
It is.
So if you're looking at like gaming performance, like TK does on his channel, if you're looking at like photo and video editing performance, like I do on my channel, we can still have an informed conversation.
None of that have anything. Yeah, Geekbench can go bench something else. No, I was just kidding. The synthetics are, we've said it before, benchmarks are not.
No, see, this is the thing that's going to kill me is Tensor. I'm wholly expecting Tensor to take at least a 10% dip over the fastest A88s. And people are going to look at that on a synthetic benchmark and go, oh, why would you pay the same and it's 10% slower and it's not good enough and you should only ever buy the most powerful because I can get a used Xiaomi for $300. And I'm going to
be that conversation.
Have to reach through my computer monitor and take that person and just
to you in 2022,
shake them until their fillings fall out of their teeth, and then feel like I can get on with my life.
Conversation. No,
but I digress.
But please tell me how you feel, because I don't think you're telling me.
I'm just a mask right now. You can't get any sense of.
I think you're pretty much on point on that one. I feel like it's going to be more of a, people are going to look at the benchmarks and are going to basically say, well, this doesn't do. Well, the fact of the matter is the 888 runs so fast, so much ahead of what you've used already. Even if you are going with a 10% hit, you're still days and light years ahead of what you need, which I don't think people see.
From the conversations that we've been having, Samsung's come pre-throttled out of the box.
Oh, absolutely. Do not get the full power. Even the Fold and the Flip are throttled.
OnePlus obviously has their issues with throttling disclosure, which are very frustrating because I think that would be a beautiful feature if you could give me control.
We just need control, OnePlus. We love you for that, but we want control over the throttling.
This whole generation, what's going to be the most difficult for tech reviewers, and I am actually like sympathetic to this idea because I feel there's this lazy review cycle that folks have gotten stuck into. Quantifying sustained performance. It's the thing techies are the worst at.
I feel like gaming is a good way to measure that.
Gaming is one of the most accessible because that is like, what would you do on your phone for a half hour at a stretch? Play a game.
Exactly.
Watch a movie.
PUBG is a perfect example. It takes at least about, if you're going through the entire game, about a half hour. 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, your sessions and your playtimes, you're not going to like jam like you will on a console on a couch, but 30 minutes to an hour, I've done stretches like that easy on mobile gaming.
When I'm testing phones for gaming, I'm going 2 to 3 hours. I'm not going a half hour at a time. I'm jumping game after game to see how the performance changes.
So to meaningfully recount to an audience, how does that perform? Means you actually have to do that regularly. Like you need the comparison points. You need to be able to look at, you know, I was using this mid-ranger phone and I was playing the game at these settings, and now I'm using a premium phone. How does that differ? Does it really enhance the experience? If you don't have the data, then you can't. So all of these reviewers who have cribbed just the simplest synthetic benchmarks are completely missing the point of what it is that we're trying to do when we talk to the potential consumers who are looking at buying these premium tier devices and saying,
the 6 and the 6 Pro are
what are you doing with that horsepower? Because again, the other thing is like my batch photo processing test is ridiculous. It's 200 raw files from a Sony full frame camera, processing that in RAW so that I can get a sense of how much the performance degrades over time. And that one's even closer. I can almost see the pilot.
Yeah. You can actually say hi to them.
So
they're getting closer. They know the show's going.
So we're gonna get Pixel 6, and people are gonna complain, and they're gonna completely miss the point. And I feel like we're already in line for another major tech review channels won't do the legwork, and then they'll miss all of the opportunities, like with the Pixel 4, where Neural Core wrecked videos. I mean, like the Pixel 4 still outperforms Snapdragon 888. If you're looking at,
you have a dedicated processing on a separate core. Absolutely, and we're hoping that comes back.
So they won't test that. I mean, like they can't. They don't know how. I mean, we've got techies out there that can't figure. I mean, we're using wireless mics right now on a phone because we know what cable to plug into the phone so that you can get audio sent to the phone. We can't even get that right on some of the major channels.
Sometimes you do get those conversations. Like I said, it's more about the legwork, and we just need to. We know that the phone is coming out within a few. They keep saying fall. Obviously,
did you catch like in the teaser, like the time like 9:20 showed up on a clock?
Yes. So I was very.
Are we thinking that that's like a clue?
That was somebody. So somebody said on the 6 and the 6 Pro. It's not uncalled for, though, to be actually putting it. We've seen other leaks where they've put the time on the phone and the time and date.
Yeah.
Kind of. So is it like?
I wonder if they were aiming for that and then they just couldn't go back and reshoot.
Yeah, they're like, crap.
Oh no,
we're gonna have to do it on 9:20 now.
Better move up your timetable.
We already know next week is going to be basically overshadowed by a single event that's going to happen. Nobody else is going to talk about anything else. I think moving, if it is 9:20, it's a good deal. It's a making it far enough where people can talk about it. But I think at the end of the day, I think we just need to start seeing we need to see it materialize. We need to start seeing people talk about it a little bit, and then obviously still, see what Google's vision is with Tensor or with Whiteshop or whatever we want to call it. At the end of the day, I'm excited for it because of what I've seen from them so far.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, at least, we can only go up, and where we are is pretty up.
For sure.
We're not at the base section, and sorry.
I mean, I feel you can probably finish up your point.
Yeah, no, we're not in a position where we're talking about, like they have so much to overcompensate or to come back from. No, they've set themselves up for years in a good position ever since the 4, the 3 to the 4 to the 5, and even now with the 5A. At their cheapest price point, they're still able to provide a solid camera performance, solid battery life. I mean, no 5G, but again, 350 was pretty crazy what it offered.
Oh yeah.
And still get stereo speakers, still get the latest and greatest. I'm not worried.
And again,
I'm more worried about people talking about it than what Google's going to do.
And I feel I'm worried about people that are going to miss the point. Yeah. It's not a Samsung, so they don't know how to talk about it. It's not an iPhone, so they don't know how to talk about it. And that familiarity with different products matters. It's a completely different conversation when I'm talking about a Sony, because I know I'm talking to a specific kind of demographic.
Sony has,
and I'm not recommending an Xperia to my mom. Yeah. I'm recommending an Xperia to a certain class of premium tier.
A lot of people are getting their Xperia 1 Mark III already. I was like so jealous.
So right now. I'm hoping mine is gonna show up at some point. We'll see. I'm
still waiting.
Kind of waiting that out. I know it's going to arrive like when I've got like 4 other phones in hand.
So here's what happened. They're shipping them out in batches. So this is the biggest thing. So depending on when you put in your order,
tiny little batches.
So you're going to end up becoming basically part of that. But I'm seeing comments today. I was like, hey, watching this on the One Mach 3. I'm like, God. So it's the same thing I had last year. People watching on the One Mach 2 and on my videos about the phone. It's like anyways.
But to me, that's going to be one of the most fun, without an LG V70. The most fun showed I'm really looking forward to is Pixel 6 and Xperia 1 because they're like so fundamentally different.
But it's the core of everything we, and I want to make it say, this is something obviously that I hold near and dear. The core message that Sony has right now is speaking directly to what I want and what I need. This is something that every time I pick up a phone, I'm thinking of what I'm missing right out of the box, not necessarily thinking of what it's. And it's a step because we're talking about, just truly appreciating what you have. The headphone jack for one, toolless SIM tray access with expandable storage. Hey man, guess what? We have that still. Stereo speakers that are actually facing you, not facing away from you. There's the conversation in here is made for content consumption, content creation, total control over what you do, and so much more. But it gets glanced over when you look at it, and it was like, oh, this is Sony, it's an expensive phone. I'm like, well, look what it could do.
Yeah, or my favorite was seeing a comment from another larger YouTube channel where I was in the Sony Xperia subreddit. Someone said like, hey, are you going to get your hands on a One Mark III? Because you'd reviewed all these other Xperias and you seemed to like them. And the YouTuber came back, nah, man, that phone trash. You wait like 2 months and it's going to be like $600. And you're like, have you never bought an Xperia? Because they don't ever devalue.
No, Xperia last value is
there is
solid.
No phone in the Android ecosystem that frustratingly holds on to. So like someone else said, I'm stealing that from part of the Reddit conversation too. It's like, no. Sony's hold on to their value frustratingly well. And so again, it's
when you come back a year later, you're trying to buy the phone, and you're like, nope, it's still the same.
But it definitely speaks to the sort of apathy in the review space because the enthusiasts know, and they're way ahead of the curve. And they understand these differences. So, I mean, when we talk about things like Pixel 6, like, what I'm fully expecting is out of the box, first day ROM, I'm actually expecting the camera performance to be kind of weak. This is Google's first larger pixel binning sensor. The GM1 is kind of an unknown for all of this algorithmic,
so very few devices
computational
that carried
photography. So and I'm sure Google has primed it, but without all that data to fulfill what the post-processing should look like, pixel binning is a radically different kind of computational photography than what Google has done in the past. So I feel like giving them an update or 3 is fair as they catch up to using this new sensor. And something tells me that the reason they've held out for so long isn't actually like color reproduction in HDR. It's probably autofocus. Pixel binning sensors are notoriously clumsy.
Especially large sensor. I mean,
the larger the sensor, and not having all of those, the dual pixel PDAF that we've got on a Pixel is incredible at subject tracking. It takes a lot more brute force AI to overcome that if your sensor doesn't have those autofocusing sub-pixel advantages.
It's going to be one of those.
So this is supposedly one of the first pixel binning sensors that can kind of compete on that DP-PDAF
Well, I was going to say,
scale.
it performed amazingly well on the Xiaomi. So for me, that was one of the biggest things I appreciated about that is how well it performed on the Xiaomi. So I think the reality is when somebody's reviewing it, though,
that's what I mean is, well, I got the phone on like launch day and I took 3 photos off of my back porch, and you can tell it doesn't have the good colors like a Samsung or an iPhone does, and it's not as good. So that's the end of the discussion.
And I returned
it. And YouTube is going to front load those early videos and any type of follow up or nuance. I mean, again, like we expect the most minute Apple and Samsung videos to carry over. I mean, like I'm seeing like conversations about the first Z Flip and Z Fold, like minor bug fix updates coming out. Now, you think the Z Flip just got an update today. Yeah, but we don't do the follow through. We don't do the follow up.
Nobody redone
on any other
a video saying, "Oh, hey, they fixed this. This is now better."
Right.
Yeah, bring up the conversation.
Or like when I remember when the Pixel 4. When the Pixel 4 launched, there was that whole issue like, oh, you can't record 4K 60 on the Pixel 4. And you're like, They never included it in the Pixel camera app, but they did update so that the phone could do that on other third-party apps. Yes. And you're like, where was the due diligence there? Because living with the Pixel, that person, the person who owned the Pixel knew that.
No, knew exactly. If they decided to go with it, then so it's going to be an interesting conversation. If 9/20 is the date, that means we are literally within weeks of when that's going to happen. I'm anticipating it somewhere. So here, it's basically September, early October. It can't really be that far. I realize they said fall, and fall is such a long period of time, but I don't imagine them going to the point where it's getting close to, let's say, when Qualcomm announces their next SoC, when we start talking about, because we're getting into that time of the year, right? So we need to kind of keep the conversation. So
although does Google get to future-proof themselves a little in that because they're not running a Snapdragon?
They're going to be, it's going to be a very interesting conversation. But then it's a higher uphill battle to have the conversation. I don't know if they would want to put themselves in don't get me wrong. You have to.
CK just had like 3 thoughts all at the same time. This is great. Let's watch.
You have the PR department, you have the engineering department, and then you have the user base. When you're calling and when you're talking about a device that could potentially come at a slightly smaller bump reduction in performance compared to the SoC if we ran Geekbench all day long. And then you also put that against another higher tier of performance where more than likely the next SoC from Qualcomm is going to be, again, 10 to 15%, insert XYZ number in incremental improvement.
It'll overheat even faster.
Yes, that one actually will cook.
I am so tired of getting minutes of runtime in 100-degree weather. I need this down to seconds. I need to get thermal throttling as soon as I open, unlock my phone.
Don't even unlock. Turn on the screen. You're like, I want to see my notification. We're good.
I need it to fizzle like a hammer rocket in Iron Man 2.
We're running out of
wow, that was a reach. That was way too long of a drive to get to that destination.
It's okay. We'll work on the next one. I think that's going to be more of the conversation that when start people looking at it. I think the approach to where it is hopefully September, October-ish. Android 12 is, like you said before, it literally, I mean, right now with beta 5, there are very minor issues every once in a while. Like the notification shade comes up blank on me a couple of times. I don't understand why, but I think it's literally minor bug fixes.
Sure.
So that kind of also indicates, and with them putting on a teaser, more of a video teaser, not an image.
For sure.
So hopefully we'll see that coming
up. This becomes, I think, the critical part of the conversation because we know what's going to be dominating the tech news cycles next week. Google showing one of the biggest advancements in their UI in the last couple of years, getting from Material to Material U. Pixel 6 setting the stage for the next generation of aesthetic. No, not smartphones. I mean, like, again, some of this is Google playing catch up, and I totally acknowledge that. But this is them setting the next design language for their phones, where
it's the next generation,
like
not just
Pixel
design.
Pixel 3 to 3A to 4 to 5 to 5A have been one generation of a very specific kind of design language. Pixel 6 takes us to the next one. With so much new happening for Google, what do we feel the reactions are going to be for iPhone 16? Because there's no point talking about iPhone 13 anymore. We already have all the news out about iPhone 14, and iPhone 15 is probably just going to be like an iPhone 14s.
Pretty much.
So I want to take this conversation to something relevant that people will actually care to talk about. So
you heard it here first. iPhone 16 leaks.
I'm putting out, I can't disclose my sources, but iPhone 16 is actually going to be a magnetic levitation droid.
Oh.
So instead of it going in your pocket, it just, you've got to buy a special Apple shirt.
Does it come with the insert though in the back of the head? No, not that one. Okay.
It's going to be iPhone 18. Because you need your iPhone 16, and then 17 is really going to be like an iPhone 16s.
Neural core and everything will be basically literally neural.
They'll invent machine learning.
You'll be the one learning.
Yeah. Right. So
iPhone 16, that was
that was the hokiest joke I could come up with in this moment. So next week we've got iPhone announcements.
Yeah.
A lot of analyst chatter saying like this is the least exciting Apple announcement we've seen in years.
Have they seen last year's announcement?
Well, no. See, I got to give Apple a lot of credit because they did something Samsung totally failed at, where from the iPhone 11 era.
Got them. Okay.
You had a little spider buddy.
Oh, I was going to say, I saw a whole bunch of buddies here. Like, yeah, we're getting friendly with everybody.
Yeah, maybe you get the wildlife.
Exactly.
So I know I got to give Apple a lot of credit from in the year the iPhone 11 came out. The best-selling iPhones were previous generation iPhones.
Oh, you mean the 10X and basically the generation before when
when
they first went full display.
So the best-selling iPhones were the cheaper and older ones. The second best-selling were the iPhone 11, and the worst-selling were the Pros. This last year with the iPhone 12,
11 Pro Max still works perfectly for me.
But with the iPhone 12, Apple moved a substantial number of consumers up to the Pro level, where Samsung lost all of that market and more Samsung consumers went down to the Galaxy A series.
It was also because
so this to me feels like it's going to be in like TikTok, right? This to me feels like it's going to be an off year for the Pros, for the high end, for the premium tier.
Well, because you still have access to the 12 Pro, the 12 Pro Max. You still have I don't think they're going to be discontinuing everything. The reality, I think this is, even if they call it 13, it probably will feel like an S tier.
Well, yeah, but I doubt they're going to discontinue a lot, but I feel like they'll probably take out the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max to try and encourage people moving up to the 13 Pro, whatever.
It's going to have that new hotness of a sensor, whatever the sensor is. It's only going to do that one extra mode that you can't do with the other devices because you don't have it. But you know how it is.
Sorry, Andrew just said this. iPhone 16 is just a wallet with a screen that will send your paychecks directly to Apple.
Hot diggity dad.
That's the hot take right there.
Exactly. Don't even
when we say we want the hot takes, we want the hot takes.
You get money, you put wallet, you close wallet, money gone. Thank you.
Apple and then Apple scans all of your personal data. They start scanning your brain waves to see if you're thinking about anything get to that level,
objectionable. Like, trust us, all your information is stored on device in your brain. Everything will be scanned inside of your brain, and we'll let you know exactly when that.
I mean, it's not a backdoor, TK.
It is.
You can tell it's not a backdoor because we did not call it a backdoor.
That's how we do it.
Totally different.
Absolutely. But all joking aside, I know we're kind of like hammering a little bit with Apple. We'll have to see how it kind of goes up with Apple next week.
This is what I mean. Like every year we kind of like base our self-worth on the team that we prefer doing well. And let me tell you, when you do that and you're a fan of phones like LG's, doesn't play out well for you.
It's a very short
but this is the year
for people like they'll pay attention to you initially, but then you're at that point you're just talking with friends.
But also you're just going to burn yourself out too if you're constantly playing that kind of hype train. But the like I saw an analyst report, this is like the lowest percentage of Android users are interested in switching, where we know that Apple typically has about a 20% churn rate every quarter, and then they get some of those consumers back, but not all of them. And so this year is the year that people
back and forth, the flippy flop.
Yeah, but this is the year that people seem least interested in switching to a new iPhone. I feel like with Samsung kind of hitting heavy on at least something novel, the novelty of folding phones, the interest in what Apple is going to do with an iPhone that feels probably the same as the previous generation.
But the 90% of the UI experience and elements, they haven't, unless they do a massive change like they went with Android with iOS 14. I don't think we're going to see.
We know iOS 15. I mean, we've already been seeing it in action that it's not going to be.
It's not this earth-shattering experience change. So for the most part, I feel like most people, unless they've been on for quite a few generations, let's say the 10X or something, or even the early, the 11s, I don't really see them jumping into the 13.
Yeah.
But the reality is, at the end of the day, we'll see what we'll see what Apple does. I was going to say Sam Apple. We'll see what Apple does. I also think Xiaomi has an event going on. I think Xiaomi has quite a few this month. But there's one coming up next week.
Xiaomi has events like every week.
No. I saw somewhere where there was a news thing where there was like one on the 9th, one on the 14th.
I was trying to help out. Who was it? I was trying to help out Jeff. El Jefe Reviews was looking at like what phones he could use to test different wireless audio codecs. Because there are some older, LDHC. Is an older protocol to try and improve Bluetooth sound quality, and then you've got LDAC, and then aptX Adaptive is going to be coming out. Technically, aptX Adaptive will support this new lossless that Qualcomm is talking about, or if not, it's going to be rolled into Adaptive. That has been a little unclear from Qualcomm's messaging, and Qualcomm hasn't gotten back to me on that.
We've been kind of, ever since the announcement of the Insider phone with the...
but sorry, the completion of that thought was like, it was me and him like digging through the developer options on different phones and like, maybe you should go with the Xiaomi. Because like it's one of the few that explicitly lists LDHC,
the list on there
LDAC,
is a little bit more.
aptX HD, and aptX Adaptive.
If you've never tried this, try this on your phone. Go into developer options under Bluetooth codecs and see what your device supports. You can actually see exactly what the maximum. It may not have all the options available for you, but it'll show all the levels. And it'll show you what your current setting is allowing.
But again, for all of the news that like Xiaomi's coming out, is like, well, you could look at this, you could look at a Mi, you could look at a Mi 11, you could look at an 11.
Or Xiaomi now, they're dropping the Mi.
I just like, this is ridiculous.
It's all going to be Xiaomi, no more Mi.
I have the hardest time keeping up with what they do because it's just like the shotgun blast of phones all year.
Well, we're getting close also to the whole Techtober, Tech September, or whatever that concept going on, you know, at the end of the year. What I was trying to shoot for, I guess, at least, is we're coming up for a couple of devices. So there's going to be a couple of things announced next week, some Apple and some Mi stuff, or Xiaomi, and then hopefully Tensor or hopefully Google at the end of the month. I think that's going to be the big. If the indications are true.
We're going to close out the year probably in Xperia 5, hitting a few more markets.
That was about the next thing. So Xperia 5 Mark III.
And then it's just going to be some silly refreshes. Like I did get the press release
OnePlus is going to have a T as well, I'm assuming, at some point.
I kind of hope they don't. I kind of hope they give up on Ts. I'd love for them to like separate their releases by
having just
mainstream, like their premium tier and then their mainstream options. And
you think maybe they'll bring the Note 2 to the US at this time, or finally bring
even just, you know, again, like their 6-month refreshes on the ends.
Yeah,
like the N.
Well, the N200 5G is the last one they released here. So we'll have to see what kind of comes up there. But I feel like those are going to be some of those things. One thing I haven't commented on since the beginning of the video is that we're both wearing glasses this time because officially, obviously, now we can talk about since the video review came out on them.
The Vue.
Vue. Honestly, the best looking, regardless of what the new what is it called? Oh man, the new Facebook $300 glasses. I don't know if anybody would ever.
They start at $150. They are a little clumsy in that each arm is its own true wireless earbud that you have to activate independently.
Dude, seriously, man.
But they're so light.
I love the frame. So if you've ever held any of them before, the biggest problem, well, not problem, but the biggest thing that you'll always notice is like the weight of the battery. The weight of the battery on each arm is typically big, and it's also the frame. I mean, you can see how thin it is. I'm trying to obviously show it to you guys. They literally look. And oops, and I almost dropped them again. Like regular glasses, and Juan would be like, "What the F? No."
Oh no!
But it gets us into having some gadget guy with glasses, which to me is always a plus because our buddy, you know, he doesn't look bad in anything, glasses and everything. And then there was also what was the other video? Hold on a second. You did the.
Oh no! It was another audio heavy week, and I mean, like I feel like this is kind of the trend.
A good week to listen.
Hold on, I got him in my pocket. I brought him to have a prop. So these are the Olive Pro. So these are true wireless, but they're hearables. So instead of it being like active noise cancellation and an ambient mode, apologies, because like I've been wearing them a lot and I don't know how clean I've kept them.
Very, very disgusting at this point.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Hands on with real tech. No.
Yeah, I really use this stuff.
This is very unique.
Yeah, it's cute.
Like,
again,
it's different.
It's not it's not that fancy, but the way that they implemented it is actually pretty clean. As you can see the battery charge on it. But these are hearables, so they're kind of pricey. I think they're $299.
Yeah, I was going to say closer to an XM4 kind of an experience a little bit. Yeah.
But the main focus, and I wouldn't put them up against like XM4s if we're talking about fidelity.
Yeah, I meant,
I
was purely going into
price tier. Yeah,
they're not geared to the same consumer base at all. Like somebody buying an XM4 would not be considering.
And you shouldn't.
No,
I mean, seriously, if what you're looking for is like the nicer Bluetooth consume audio as the main activity kind of a thing, like I think there are better solutions for that. But what these do is they take the ambient mode and they staple noise reduction to the ambient mode and then amplify what comes back out so that you should be able to better hear speech.
So it's intended to improve. So for people that have it's like a little bit more of a hearing degradation over years, and
minor. Again, if you're experiencing like moderate to heavy hearing loss, go see an audiologist and get proper hearing aids. This is kind of like I made this joke in the title. Like these are the over-the-counter
over-the-counter
medication. Yeah, as opposed to like getting the real script from your doctor.
Not it is. I'm saying this is the FDA version when you want to buy a prescription medicine.
They're pretty clean. I wish they didn't look quite so much like AirPods.
I can see where you're talking. I think when I first got them out of the box, I didn't actually get the AirPod feel from them. I got a little bit more of a Huawei feel to them.
Oh, true.
The casing a little bit more.
I just mean like the hyper white aesthetic, the big rounded ear tip, the way that they kind of stalk off the side, and from like arm's length, they're gonna look like AirPod Pros, and that's again.
I'm not gonna say somebody didn't really like copy it. No,
just change the work a little so that they don't see that you
copied. Look like it's yours, right? Because the teacher knows when he sees it. No.
So again, it's always an interesting conversation because I played with the last generation of Olives.
You mentioned that, yes.
Which were interesting because they were a little bit more Uhura. Like you would buy each ear individually. As opposed to a solution. Yeah. And then I've also played with the new Hira. Okay. And it's interesting. Like these are advancing. They are getting better, but they're not evolving as rapidly as the ambient modes are. I have to say, consumer earbuds ambient mode has been getting nothing like, and we'll talk about this, nothing like ambient mode on these guys. He says ambient mode. This is ambient mode. This is when you're in the moment. No, question though, I really need to know though, can you hear Lex downstairs when you're upstairs with these guys? I mean, yeah. The pass-through is pretty good. If we're just saying ambient mode to ambient mode, I actually think like this newest generation of Bluetooth audio chipset, like what you have in the earfun, the earfun's ambient mode.
You did the earfuns last week.
They're
earfun 2 Pros.
Surprising. The Air Pros.
The Air Pros. Sorry, yeah. I keep getting the.
They have too many. Yeah,
I don't know.
They have the free,
send me the free ones.
And something else. Anyway, for $60, the earfun's ambient mode is way better than it has any right to be.
Okay.
It is so incredibly natural.
So it's not even processed. It's literally just open mic.
And it doesn't feel hyped or amplified. That's the big problem I have is like when you make the world around you louder in your skull through these earbuds,
it's not. Yeah.
And it sounds wrong, and it actually kind of puts you off what the location is. These do that on purpose. And again, it kind of depends on what is the hearing situation that you have or what are the issues that you're trying to correct for. And I feel like the general consumer earbud evolution is probably going to catch this in another 2 years, maybe, where you already have all these microphones on your earbuds. You already have all of this modeling and this audio processing. All we need to do is combine the active noise canceling profile with the ambient mode, and we've got hearables for everybody. So that's where like this is still one of the only products that does that today and does it effectively to the point where you can tune the EQ of the noise canceling for the ambient mode in an extremely granular way. But I feel like in about 2 years, average consumer audio solutions are probably going to catch these guys. And that's where I kind of like, I get really excited because I'd love to have sort of ear assistance or hearing assistance for people at $50, $80, somewhere in there. Unfortunately, for now, if you do want something that's going to take you just a little closer to medical grade, the price is $299.
It is. And then, so for me, conversely, I did the opposite. I went with more of a consumer-based one. I did the Samsung Buds 2 review this week, which surprisingly, I mean, it was nothing. A little bit of a kind of a sneak peek on that. Obviously, I still prefer the Pros more than if I had to compare the two, the Buds Pro over the Buds 2, mostly because of control, but also sound performance. I felt like they were a little bit more. They're a little bit more on the price, but I feel like you still get a lot more.
Yeah,
the 2s are trying to be a little bit more. I want to say jack of all trades, but like an average experience. I feel like the Buds A.
You almost said average consumer.
Well, I wanted to actually kind of go into the average, average pair, not average consumer, really.
Yeah.
I feel like the Buds A still outperform them a little bit. They have a little bit better audio performance on them.
Well, and I think that's fair because with audio products and these different audio classes, we're so used to this like yearly iteration. Well, it should be better than the year before, but that's not really how audio works.
Yeah,
audio should be about different kinds of tuning for different situations, and then when you factor in different prices, it's okay if like the 2021 buds don't completely outperform the 2020 buds.
I was going to say, if the 2020 are still performing well for you, there is really no reason for you to change.
It's just that obnoxious aspect of consumerism where it's like, well, these are the new ones, they must be better. And you're like, that's not how this works.
I will say, though,
that's not how any of this works.
Samsung did one thing that I haven't had it before, where they made them light enough for some reason for me to forget that they're in my ear.
That's cool.
That was about the biggest thing, and I even had to highlight that in the beginning of the video because I felt like that was the highlight of the buds. They're light enough that you probably will forget that you have them on. And
that's one of the things I liked about the TCLs.
Yeah,
like, so they look like they're substantial earbuds, and then you take them out of the case, and
they're like, oh, okay.
I'm actually worried they're so light.
So yeah, so those are some of the things. I also did a nice video on how to control my car, because if you guys have a Tesla, that's the video, and I didn't want to have to clap that. I do apologize about that. If anybody's in the
right in your ear hole, RIP headphone users.
Everybody's like,
it's staying in the podcast. I'm not going to edit that out.
So those are some of the things going on, but I want to kind of bring it back to something about 2 weeks ago or so, when we did our when we did our last meetup. I was like, first meetup. Hey, TK. We started a challenge. We wanted to talk about the THX Sonics, and we also wanted to talk about the Bolt Helm. So those are two pocket. I'm going to say pocket.
They're dongle DACs.
They're dongle DACs. They're intended to be
like a pocket DAC. I feel would be more like the Q3. That's a pocket DAC.
You mean it's a DAC that stays in your pocket?
Exactly.
Okay. I'm with you on that. Okay. So it's a USB-C or USB dongle. I was going to say C, but it's C to A dongle that you are able to use with almost anything. Seriously, like both are.
Your box got a little crimped.
Okay, that's it. It's over.
I do apologize.
I took care of this and only dinked it on the inside.
I put this in my backpack with my Gorilla Pod, and you brought your Gorilla Pod, so I didn't even need to do that.
It is one of those. Nah, dude, don't worry about it. As long as the DAC is fine, right?
Let me actually make sure I put it back in the box.
Did we get the DAC back, or what do we do?
Did we get this DAC? Can we fly in that DAC? Yes, it's in.
Are you sure? I can call my buddy up there. He's been flying around this like the last 20 minutes.
Doing loops.
He could just do swoosh, swoosh.
And I also made sure like I didn't even take the USB-A adapter out because I had one.
Okay, good.
Like I'm gonna leave it in here.
I did end up
so I don't lose it.
So Juan was even nice enough that he actually kept the protectors. So his the USB-A has like this little
rubber boots.
You know, when you buy them, that was actually about the one thing that I liked. This had coverage for everything. Even
so you
I didn't want to think.
You spent some time listening to the Bolt.
A couple weeks, yes.
And now this is THX's version.
Yes.
Like THX makes the certification.
I think those are
THX certification for these new audio products. THX actually made their own, and you got to play with both of these. Did you discover that there was any appreciable difference for your musical listening tastes?
Okay, so I'll answer that, but I also want to caveat the conversation. Our trade here that we did also came with a very different approach, since Juan decided to introduce me to something that he's never going to get back now. So thank you very much for the conversation. Yeah, and that's what TK just grabs the phone and went. So he let me play with some open back planar magnetics that I didn't. Okay, so I've never used open back headphones. My entire experience. I do apologize for the back here.
Oh no, that's what the case is for.
Yeah, it's very different. It's a very, very different sound profile. I don't know how to explain. The best way to explain it is if you've ever felt like you're talking to somebody and you put your hands around your ears and you're talking to somebody and you're listening to them through that, then take your hands out and then listen to them. That's the shift in approach.
It almost feels like you're kind of pulling some cellophane off of
it's like
a
suddenly
window.
And then suddenly you can hear so much clearer. So as I was testing them both, I'm not going to lie. I used these 90% of the time. I didn't want to use my. So the DT770s are very good.
Oh, the DT770s are great.
Monitoring earbuds, and they sound great in any experience.
Yeah.
I use them to edit video. I use them for a podcast whenever we have guests and so on.
They're comfy. They help block some sound around
over the year. No
great.
Pressure. Really nice material, built quality, and they've lasted quite a bit.
I mean, the design has lasted for like 30 years.
I was going to say it's been the same for the longest time. So. I played with both, and I'll say this, and we also kind of shared with you guys the playlist last week on there. So the biggest thing for me, audio-wise, when I was using the DT770s, I didn't really see the big difference. The audio was very close within the playlist and the music I was listening to, or even just listening to the audio. I made sure that I was using it with apps and programs that were actually using the DAC full potential. And
that's another thing too, is that it's still difficult to get a handle on.
It's not as easy as you just plug into the PC and then you'll get some improvement. But to truly appreciate the audio, you have to make sure, like let's say if you're using Tidal, you have to go into the setting, go into the speaker, turn on exclusive mode, turn on absolute audio. Once you turn all of those features inside of Tidal, obviously the rest of the audio from your PC goes to versticken because there's nothing in there nothing recognizes that interface. And believe me, like I'm listening to audio on Tidal and I'm trying to basically, jump back, because I'm like, when you're setting up my timeline in my video editing, the time before when I sit on the PC and I'm importing all my footage and setting up everything, I like to listen to music. So I turn them on and I give the audio codec to work directly. And then I jump into DaVinci and then DaVinci has like, no audio. Nope. And TK's like, what the heck happened? Did I break DaVinci? And then I remember the Tidal is still running in the taskbar. So short answer, as long as you know what you're doing, with the DT770s, I didn't realize a big difference. I will say that with these guys, that audio was superb. It was. I
really like those headphones. They're such a good starter drug for planar magnetics.
The bass, so here is the biggest thing. On the DT770s, I felt like the bass wasn't very overpowering, but you could feel like real rumbling.
The decay sustains better on dynamic drivers.
Absolutely. And then with these, you still hear it. You still have that feeling, but it's not as overpowering. And you feel like you're enjoying like it's a well-balanced palette of color. You're not getting one color overshadowing another color. So it's really more about, you can close your eyes and just listen and try to feel for what you're trying to get out of the song. The list that we have, I feel like should have been a lot longer than what we had, because by the time I got to the end of it, I feel like there's so much more genres that we didn't touch.
Yeah.
But and then my list obviously was heavily like dance, EDM, and then of course Enya throwing in there. But then when I jumped over to Jay-Z, when I jumped over to the Beatles, or even that Santana track from Jeff.
Yeah, when Jeff recommended that
good one.
How?
Oh my God!
How crystal does that sound?
Yes.
It sounds so good.
Oh, okay. So as I was driving up here, I was listening to the list because it's been my playlist for the last couple of weeks. So I was listening to the Dark Knight theme in the car. Obviously, the best track for Teslas, just hands down. But then I got the Santana again also in the car. I can hear I heard the big difference between the performance.
Yeah.
It's not as crisp. It's not as clear. It's heavy on the bass.
It's like I put on that Rage Against the Machine track, right?
Oh man.
And I don't ever listen to that in my car, because my car stereo will not do
absolutely
that guitar distortion justice.
I enjoyed the song, but it was just not the right level.
It doesn't sound good.
I felt like I need headphones in, plug.
And again, it's like killing in the name of. And if I don't get goosebumps on that hit, then your audio product has failed to accomplish its job.
Oh my God, Rage Against the Machine, that was a good one.
Again, kind of taking it back.
And of course, Pharrell was basically heavily represented.
Yeah, Pharrell got heavy representation. Daft Punk, and I kind of spaced that I also put on that Run the Jewels track.
Yeah.
And Pharrell is heavily featured on that.
Or even Bruno. Bruno was really nice. I felt like somebody was listening to TikTok for some reason. What you do? Where you at? Where you? I'm sipping wine. Anyways, forget about it. Anyways, when I listened to it, I was very. It's a nice playlist. I love what Jeff did to the list at the end of it.
Adding it on.
I enjoyed these way too much that I almost feel like I don't want to give it back. But I'm also starting to I feel that this happens every single time. Every time we've done something, like the Q3s, I borrowed it from him, and then within a week later, I bought my own.
Yeah.
And
I feel like is still such a little monster.
Absolutely. And for my desktop experience, Q3 works perfectly fine. It's purely because, like you said,
it's incredible that now, again,
I'm missing a lot of controls on these. That's the biggest thing that I think
that's the thing is like
these
dongle DACs
so auto mode driven. But
it's like a Pixel camera versus an LG camera. I'm sorry, I couldn't help that. So I would say in operation, the thing that I appreciate about what Helm has done here, this nub is heavier than you would expect on a little dongle DAC, but I was going to say, I like the way they did it here. It's much more reinforced. This is standard to what we've seen before. They both get this
more.
Is so much easier to live with, though.
Yeah, it's shorter. It's easier. like, so for reference, this usually used to stay in my small pocket in my jeans. So for me, that when I had this one, I couldn't do that with this. I always, what I would do with this one, so I didn't make sure to have to bend it too much with the plane, I would put the phone with the jack on one side of my pocket, run the cable around my neck, because they come with long cables. Both these and the DT770s are extreme. They know you're going to have distance for these things. They're not intended to be, and they're coiled. So I literally have like a necklace with the headphones on, so I look like I'm walking around with a brand new necklace. But audio quality, honestly,
I love the performance on this. I wish this wasn't as big.
They're definitely on the size, but it's when you create your own brand. Obviously, you create it in the image you feel like it needs to be. I like the design on both. I'm just more magnetic. Definitely the magnetic. It's just like he's saying. Essentially, it's a much different. It's like literally 50% of the length, with very little on the thickness on this one. So
and with audio reproduction that doesn't feel like it's compromised, that they went with the smaller.
And they're very similar. For me, at least at the end, and I know I'm not trying to make it like earth-shattering revelations. For me, if you're going with the Q3 or with the Helm or with the Bolt or with the THX, for me at least, I feel like they're similar enough, especially with the cans that I was listening to. Now, I will say I did not have these when I was using this guy, so I don't know the big difference. But I enjoyed this pair. I'll say this: the pair is a beautiful put together, very well.
And it's shocking because again, planers are kind of known for being a little thirstier. They're a little harder to drive. Like you can't just plug them into like a Pixel headphone jack and expect all of the color and the reproduction to be spot on. But what we used to need, even just a couple years back, would have been something Q3 size or bigger.
Oh, wow.
To really drive these and feel like, I'm really doing this. Because even on an LG, it's the funny thing about planers, the impedance is low, but the sensitivity is high.
So
LG won't kick over the amp when you plug in planers because it sees the impedance and it goes, oh no, this is fine. This is a low power headset. But it needs so much more power to really get those drivers cooking. I can't really use this with one of my LGs unless I plug in on some kind of adapter or a Y adapter and get the quad DAC tricked and then connect to these. So it's incredible that something like this is driving, but it is, I feel like the more you get into audio, the more you do appreciate things like a balanced connector, if you have any balanced headsets, individual hardware controls, finer volume control, so you can really dial in.
I think that's where the Q3 kind of jumps in a little bit more. This is more of, don't get me wrong, because with the Q3, you not only control the audio from your phone, you also control it directly from the actual amp itself. So you're able to tune it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Where when I was using it with a smartphone, I'm at the beg and mercy of what the volume step counter is on say a Samsung or whatever the device I'm using.
So you get maybe 25 steps, and even with 25
and you're not
steps,
trying to jump 25 steps at a time. You want to jump that smaller incremental thing.
And even with 25 steps, I can still occasionally find myself like one click up is just a little too loud,
and one click down is a little bit. So for those are the things. But then I do appreciate that when I'm on the PC where it does absolute volume. So where it does essentially with Tidal and even with Amazon Music, it allows the actual system to override the volume level inside of the app. So therefore, Tidal isn't trying to control my volume as well as my PC trying to control my volume. So you're getting multiple steps. You get one control dial and then you increase it and control it. On the smartphone, I felt like I'm at the beg and mercy of the smartphone, which I didn't appreciate as much, but it still sounded good. I prefer obviously open back a little bit more when I'm able to.
And you can kind of open that up a little, like if you hit USB Audio Player Pro.
Yes, which I have. No, you could definitely install. But I feel like these require a quieter environment.
Oh, definitely.
You want to be in a situation where you are either a very low audio or just in the office, close the door.
You're going to focus on consuming the audio.
Absolutely, yes.
And they can be used for work too. I mean, if you're working and kind of trying to monitor.
But for me, because it's like, so my son Omar would come into the room and start talking to me. DT770s, I always have to kind of lift up, kind of do something here. With these, I'll just pause the music and I'm like, okay. Or even I can keep listening.
And just maybe turn the volume down.
Yes, because so that was the other thing. Your neighbors will hear what you're listening to.
So I brought a prop just because I wanted to show this off.
This is an inline.
So this is Helm's first THX AAA certified.
Oh, I remember this one. Yeah, I saw that one. Yes.
So this is not a DAC. So this I mean, it has a hard cabled 3.5 millimeter,
yeah,
and I was and at least a 4-pin.
Yeah.
So I just in one generation, this is what their amp used to be, to now what their DAC amp is now.
I'm just missing these two buttons in maybe a little bit of no, I'm sorry, but I totally understand. Yeah.
But crazy, and this to actually drive this amp, you have to charge it.
That's the USB-C on the port on the side.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is just crazy that in one generation of audio product. I mean, we don't normally see audio advance like that. Audio solutions typically live a lot longer before you see this kind of
heavy generational shift from one side to the other.
I mean, less than 2 years to see this kind of improvement is incredible.
For $100 DAC that you can. So, and again, this will work with almost any smartphone you have, Samsung, whatever, as long as it's USB-C. And if you want to use it with iPhones, you can even plug in. They'll have the string of connectors.
Don't use it with an iPhone. Don't give Apple the satisfaction of buying. It wasn't me.
I just watched the video. So Helm put out a video on how to do it, and I was like, when I saw that is the end product,
the most ridiculous thing. And again, you've got to like get stupid adapter cables for Lightning. At this point, we just need Lightning to die in a fire.
Yeah.
And I mean that with all malice.
We need a Lightning to die. That just sounds like somebody. No, so yeah.
But here's the funny thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did not like my OnePlus 9s.
Really?
No sound
at all.
None. Worked everything else. Worked on my PC. Worked on my laptop. Worked on my iPhone with a stupid adapter.
It worked on my Nord 2.
Did not work on my OnePlus 9s.
But I did not test it. Okay, I'll have to try it on my 9s. I mean, I'm pretty sure it will be the exact same thing because we have.
I mean, again, it might not. Maybe my OnePlus 9's being stupid, but my OnePlus 9 worked with 2 other dongle DACs. I didn't try it immediately opposite.
So I had the opposite. Remember, last time when we did with the Q3 will just not work with
your Samsung.
Yeah, Samsung just does not want to talk Q3. It's like, who you? But
new phone, who it is?
Yeah. But the Helm and the Bolt for me worked. I did want to say, just can you make sure that you got the stuff? Make sure it still looks weird. Because I headphones and everything always
kind of open this weird. And then like a smoke bomb is going to go off.
That's usually how it is.
No.
Oh, what is this?
No.
I don't know what this is. Is that a Mecha Pickle?
So wait, is this from Greg?
Yeah. So yeah. Obviously your headphones are in the bag. I didn't want to mess with it.
Greg's 3D printing stuff.
Not close enough, buddy.
Oh my God.
The last time when I saw you, I had this in the car and I forgot to hand it over to you. But yes, so Greg,
it's a sound wave.
It's a sound wave. It's
Soundwave is objectively the best transformer.
And it's built the size. That's exactly how Soundwave
it's like to scale.
To scale. So Greg did a really nice job. I posted some of the stuff
amazing.
I got. And this morning he hit me up before because he's not going to be able to make it. So hopefully, Greg, if you're watching this later, or you're getting this in the replay.
I'll definitely send this.
Yeah. So he's like, make sure you give Juan the printouts. I'm like, I have them in there in the car.
This is so cool.
So yes, we have.
It's amazing that this fit. Yeah, that's incredible. Like I almost want to leave the headphones like out.
If you want to leave the headphones with me, I'm totally fine with that.
No, I'm taking the headphones home. I'm just going to try and keep my Soundwave safe.
So yes, here are your babies. They perfectly fit in the bag. I understand what he's doing.
It's incredible. Because like we have these conversations about worth it's for the monies and stuff, and there's a certain like learning a language aspect to good audio.
Yeah.
And this is still fresh for me because most of my audio experience is recording and it's a very practical kind of experience. And these were such a great gateway drug to like, oh, this is more entertaining. And I'm starting to understand why.
Yeah.
And I actually have to actively fight against like buying a whole crap ton of other things to play with. But I wanted to ask you, what was your earbud situation when you were trying to play with some of these DACs? Like for both the Helm and the THX, did you do any? A
lot of magnets going on, huh?
Oh, so the point of this, and I think this is one of the reasons why they made this so long, is because they probably needed extra shielding. Because I think it's supposed to snap like that.
Yeah.
To keep it from flopping around, but that doesn't really help.
No, not in real use case. You're
especially like again. It's still bigger than the Helm. Well, actually, it's about the same size.
Yeah, but it's more than likely this is going to just bend whatever you put.
Yeah, you're going to crimp this cable at some point.
It definitely looks like it's a thicker cable gauge, though.
I understand, but I wish they hadn't. Anyway,
I'm not going to say it's a compromise, but so for my wired earbuds, for my earbuds, I was using basically my B&Os. My B&Os are basically my best in-ear buds. Everything else that I've used.
Do you have other earbuds?
Mostly, for the lack of a better term, no. Actually, most of my other ones are cheaper, modeled.
Okay, well,
So I'll say this:
these aren't going to be expensive.
My
But
OnePlus.
I brought these
buds, the USB-C buds.
I want you to have these.
Which ones are those?
These are the KZ AS06. They're a little older.
Okay.
And I want you to, now that you're taking the Helm back, I want you to take a listen on these.
Yeah, no magnet.
They are 6-driver balanced arms.
I want to see. I've seen them before on your.
So I did a review on them a while back. I had another pair of them that I accidentally sent through the washing machine. I think these are like $50.
Okay. I could try them.
IEMs. But what I really want you to take a listen for is that unlike the B&Os, which are single driver dynamic drivers, these are multi-driver IEMs.
Okay.
So, and balanced arms are not super bassy, but they're these teeny tiny little like sound boxes that are hyper articulate. So to me, this is kind of like the difference between going from kind of bassy consumer single driver earbuds. It's kind of like going to planar magnetics where you're probably not going to get the bass punch.
It's not.
You're not going to get the rumble, I should say.
Yeah.
But everything is like kind of overly articulated, and the attacks are really, really precise. So these are for you.
Thank you, sir.
To keep and to live with and to love.
I will be listening to these very much right away.
I have worn those. They weren't like brand new, but I put in fresh ear tips so that you don't have to deal with any biology. I gave them a good scrub down and everything.
It's been fully sanitized by Dr. Juan. Gracias, senor. It will be married to this DAC for the short term.
But just like, for like next week's podcast, I take a quick listen, because I feel my prediction is you might not enjoy dance or club tracks quite as much because the rumble will probably feel a little hollow.
Yeah, so those are.
But I think you're gonna dig on things like piano, jazz, a lot of like guitar work.
I was about to say I want to play Santana right now on this thing.
All of those tiny granular little details are gonna kind of pop. That's a little bit more. And when you drive it with something like this, it's gonna be real. It's gonna be real easy to turn this down way down.
Okay.
Because the amp on this is like gross overkill.
The most I've ever had on in-ear solutions have been dual, maybe triple drivers, I think, but those have been more on the wireless solutions than it is on wired. So for me, wired, because for the longest time, like I said, I've enjoyed so I got my B&Os with my V20. That was the time where LG was always knocking it out of the park. You get really good. So I've loved them ever since, and they've survived. And surprisingly, they don't work on every phone that has a headphone jack for me. Like, they're very particular on what they work on. But they worked great with my with the Bold. So for me, it was just an easy.
So the B&Os are really mellow, and I like them. It's a very chill kind of.
Exactly, you enjoy. It's not so much. Like I said, if I want to really enjoy the music, I go to over ears and I want to sit down.
For sure.
But if I'm gonna go very easy, and also because they always tie up very easily in my pocket.
So bad.
That
cable is nightmare fuel. The cables on like these IEMs, they're not the best cables. And at some point, if you go down this rabbit hole of like in-ear monitors and stuff, you'll probably start getting into things like replacement cables. But the difference is going to be, so like there are so many musical metaphors. Like in over-ear cans, like Meze 99s are these wood cup over-ear headphones that are known for just being super mellow. And it almost sounds like audio details are smeared. They're just so comfy. And again, we're trying to express this in stupid emotional words when you need to listen to them. And I kind of feel like the B&Os are going to sound like that. Like to me, the earbud versions of Meze 99s compared to these sounding more hyper articulated, like planar magnetics.
You can hear the finer deal. Okay, so I'm actually interested to see that.
And it might actually like not be enjoyable on some tracks. Like, oh my God, I can hear like mouth clicks on this singer that I couldn't hear before, and now it's ruined.
In one of the tracks we were listening to on our list,
like Coldplay. I can't listen to Coldplay albums anymore because of nicer headphones. There are older albums, like you could hear this nasal like this almost this nasal whine and how he would breathe in between phrases. You know, like I can't unhear it now. This is awful. They needed to gate that. Why did they leave that in?
This has to be mastered and updated to the next generation.
I need a remaster on old Coldplay.
I will have to say, I'll have to run it through our list. It was an enjoyable experiment. Opened my eyes and ears to open backs. Which, no pun intended, but I've heard of them. I've never wanted to dabble in them. Once I went to the DT770, they became my standard for most part. Like I said, audio, anything related to audio in my office it goes with the DT770s. And the Q3 has been driving them ever since I got the Q3. Prior to that, they were plugged straight into just standard audio, but that was because all I needed from that. Now I definitely want to be able to check it out. Multi-driver, 6 drivers per ear, man. Can it drive me home? That's the question.
They're definitely a trip. So,
definitely.
But again, it's not even just multi-driver. It's that there is no dynamic driver.
Yeah.
And that to me is, I think, always one of the interesting things is when I just lost the chat, and there was something in the chat that I was gonna mention.
I want to say Gary the fireman was actually posting something. I'm sorry, Gary, I can't read it. It's far enough that I'm either blind or just too old for this thing. Actually, somebody called me grandpa. I look like a grandpa talking for some reason. I look like a grandpa.
I guess technically I could be. That'd be weird. I'm old enough.
You're old enough to be. I don't know. We're going to dive into that one. This week, like I said, it's been weird for me, mostly because weather's been really hot. I like to go outside and try to shoot stuff.
Muggy.
Absolutely, it rained last night for us at least.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, except for now, all the dust that you have on the car, just now is muddy dust. So I got to go wash the cars.
Down there.
But they were also fixing our street. So they were repaving our street. And if you've ever had the feeling of that rumble, the machine. So we had that for 3 days straight. And they went from the street behind us to the street on us. And so every single day, all I feel all day, the whole house is shaking. And I'm like, okay, great. It's like one thing to hear the lawnmower, but the whole house to shake in the video. So they're finally done yesterday. So now I'm kind of jumping back because I need to put out a video on the Red Magic 6S, which I've had a chance to play with. Again, gaming phones are our biggest thing for me because it's really blurring that line between console type experience to desktop experience to mobile. Call of Duty has done a really good job in bringing in the mobile experience to their devices. The maps at the beginning used to be very different. Now, literally, the map you're playing on your phone is the same map that's on the game that you're playing in Warzone. So when you're jumping in, all the moves, everything's really good. Plus, supports 120 frames per second. So nice.
Nice.
So very, very nice. Looking forward to putting out some content on that, and then just kind of. I don't know. I mean, realistically, there's not a lot to basically say. We're waiting for the Pixel 6 is going to be waiting for the Pixel 6. There's not much kind of going on. Finishing up some of my commentary on the Z Fold and the Flip. A little bit of a teaser. Returning the Flip. Not keeping that one. I tried. I tried.
I just hate it when these tech influencers just buy things to return them.
I didn't buy, and this is okay. My intention was to buy and keep.
Disrespectful.
And I was very much impressed with what Samsung had to say about the Flip at the announcement. Honestly, more excited about the Flip than I was about the phone. I got the phones. I started using them for 2 weeks, and then I realized that every time I wanted to do something realistically and productive, like flying that airplane right above us, and that actually is.
Whoa, it's coming in. That's a P-51.
Yeah.
Wow.
But is there an air show that we didn't get a call on? Nice. That is a vintage
World War II
two of them.
There's another one coming over on the
side.
I
know. But there's 2 behind you.
We're going to be in for a dogfight.
I think this is our cue. If there's ever been a cue to start wrapping this show up. The show's about
when the P-51 start buzzing your location, should probably
I can handle there. Dancing exercise with Arabic music I can handle. Those guys, my friend.
That was intense.
That was intense. I want to listen to the audio part of this show again later just to see how bad it was.
Again, this could be like the best commercial for Rode ever, or maybe not so great.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Rode held its own. I think Rode did it. Yeah, either
right enough.
But I'm also kind of glad that we decided to do it this time jointly.
Andrew just said, when's the Rocketeer going to be flying by? And you're like,
that's about 5 minutes, and I think by then we're going to be jetting. I want to say first, now, obviously, foremost, hopefully keep it out. I know this week you took a week off from the podcast.
Yeah,
family time, absolutely.
I hit Labor Day hard, and then.
But that's how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Spend it with Lex and Marie. This is the whole point of it. Obviously, relaxing, spending it with the fam. And then hopefully, next week we'll be back to somewhat of a new normal, and we'll see.
Sure.
We'll have another episode. We'll be back to virtual, and we'll try to work out another challenge. I am going to be driving these through the weekend. And
I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on those. And then I think we need to try and line up a guest for Apple.
Yes.
Because the Apple event's going to happen after my podcast. So my podcast
It'll be right
is kind
before
of like
our next podcast. Let's see. Let me know, you guys. What do you guys think? We can maybe talk to Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
I'm sure Josh and Isa will jump in. Well, let's talk. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll ask around and see who we can get just to kind of hang out with, because I know I'm going to be coming at this kind of cynical. I'm still holding to not buying any Apple products until we hear unequivocally that they will be removing scanning from devices. Right now they're just slow playing it, and I'm not interested in slow playing. I want to hear we are not going to incorporate this type of observation on any of our products. And then I'll go back to, this was the year. I always go every other year.
No, I remember, you skipped last year. Yeah.
I had, this was the time for me to check out a new Apple flagship, and I'm very disappointed in their strategy on compromising.
Well, let's see if they actually even address it during the launch event as far as security, and they start talking.
No, I mean, we know. I mean, again, it's Apple, and they're so PR manicured that if there's any conversation about that, it's going to be very simplistic and, well, we care about privacy, and look at all the controls that we've included in iOS 14 that make other apps tell you what they do on their phone, but we don't have to abide by our own rules. No. We don't have to abide by the same rules that we make Facebook jump through because we're Apple. And I think that's, to me, and like, unless they come out and say, hey, like, this was a conversation we've been having, and obviously, there's been some strong feelings about this, and we've decided to walk it back, and we're not going to be implementing this. That's the only thing that can really change my mind. Well, so what I'm going to need, or I feel like for our podcast, we need someone who is still going to pick up the phone to talk about the phone.
Somebody that. Well, I mean, so essentially, it's basically a good conversation. We'll have to see how it comes out.
Yeah, so
it doesn't have to be total opposite. We're not trying to make it into a, Juan Carlos goes through the screen.
No, I mean, like, because from legitimately, because I'm not going to have the phone in hand.
I think
I'm not going to have much to say about like how it feels in the hand. So I will need someone to kind of pop up and fulfill that part of the conversation.
For sure. So for that one, we'll be back to our normal time. Thursday next week, it'll be back to 8:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But with that being said, I do want to say thank you very much for everybody for hanging out with us. Juan, thank you very much for this.
Yeah, this was fun.
Always surprising me with his, I would say, curated experience. This is the best way to say it. He's like a sommelier when it comes down to audio, right?
So delicious.
It is absolutely that. It is the experience, and the way he drives it is just. It's hard to explain, but like he says it and it actually does work in the exact way. So looking forward to playing with this. Very happy to get back my Helm again, which for the most part, I think I didn't really realize a big difference with the exception of the size of the actual dongle itself, because this was much easier to handle.
I was very impressed because I thought I was going to need this. I thought, like, well, if anyone's going to do the THX amp right, it's going to be THX. And then, they've got this, and that's really little. So, probably.
Can it actually,
and it was virtually identical to my ears.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Also, that it's less expensive. That's the other thing, too. We should say that the Helm is less expensive.
It's like $100, $99. And for me, the best combo I was looking at it is put this on if you really want to just get like an iPod type of an experience. Just get the cheapest phone you can get, like an N10 or not N10. The N100 can run this very nicely and still drive all the audio they want it the way you want it.
And you know what was really silly? Doing both of these.
Getting a DAC and an amp on top of each
other. Dog, I heard you liked amp, so we put an amp on your amp.
Yeah, it's like, thank you for this one. It was good
job, Helm.
Didn't do well till I put your
This combo is silly. And I'm so happy that you do actually sell this.
They still sell them. Yeah, by the way, this is not a discontinued product.
Yeah.
This is just the latest.
And they sell a combo of these.
Oh, I didn't see
it was buried on their site for a while, and I think they ran out of stock for a bit on this. And you could just buy both together. I think individually it's $250, so they bundled them together at $200.
That's a good deal. That's
and this is way too loud. When you pair them up together.
So this kind of, that combo kind of puts it together for me. Was closer to what a Q3 would do. You get the control that you want. You get the ability of fine-tuning the experience, where I feel like these are more like an auto steer, autopilot, and your phone is controlling everything. But at the end of the day, we'll be back with you guys. Everyone say again, thank you very much to everybody. I will see you tomorrow for the Saturday Morning with Tech.
Yep.
And again, make sure to catch Juan on Monday for the SGTQA.
I will be broadcasting this.
He will be back.
I will be back this
Yes, Monday. Holiday or no holiday, we will be back. You know, and then of course we'll see you guys next Thursday after, you know, the unveiling of the best thing since sliced bread on you know, the Apple Show event. We'll see how that goes. It will feel that way if you're watching it. Take care. See you. Have fun. Be safe and stay safe. And I hope this time this was enjoyable. I feel like the color representation, it actually wasn't as hot today.
I found the perfect. Well, I mean, it's still pretty hot. But like,
well, compared
that the shadows have been moving in, so we've got about maybe 10 more minutes before the phone gets hit.
Yeah, that's right.
We nailed it.
Exactly. Perfect timing. So we'll be back for you guys again next week for another episode. Perfect timing. That's all I can say. Starting.
Hi guys.
Warm.
Take care,
everybody.
Bye.
And
bam.
Bye-bye.